Hi, I am here at Afrikids, and you may have noticed that I've been supporting their campaign Time to Shine recently. And I thought, just instead of supporting their campaign blindly, I thought actually what would be really good is to come into their offices and speak to their founder, Georgie. And so that's why we're here. So I'm going to be asking some more questions to find out a little bit more. So, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Good, and thank you for coming and
Pleasure.
allowing me to interview you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so tell me, Georgie, when did you start Afrikids?
I started Afrikids when I was 18. I'd come out of school. I was travelling all over West Africa.
18's young.
I know.
Wow.
Well, I didn't officially start it then, but I kind of got the bug and started doing stuff. And we registered that, I think, in 2002. But yeah, so I travelled around. I'd kind of grown up with this image of Africa being that it was a bit of a basket case. You put money in there and it goes nowhere. There's corrupt governments. And as I was travelling around different countries in West Africa, I was thinking that is just not true.
Right.
The problem is in the way the aid's being delivered, and actually the people are phenomenal. So, and I just thought I've got to do something. And so I guess that's what spurred me on. And then the rest is history.
So why did you choose, because you mostly work in Northern Africa, is it? In
Northern Ghana.
Northern
in West
Ghana,
Africa,
right?
yeah.
Yes. So why did you choose that area specifically? Is it just because that's where you went, or?
So I travelled around lots of the countries around Ghana, but Ghana being English speaking, it was easier for me. And somebody who I was staying with in the south of Ghana said, you've got to go north because there's this incredible children's home. They have no money, but they are doing amazing things and they need help. And I just thought, I'm going. And it absolutely blew me away. A lady there who was kind of just working against the odds to save these children. And my plan was never, let's set up a really big charity. It was kind of iterations. Every year, let's do something more, let's do something more. And I was always very aware that if you go too wide and too sparse, then you dilute the impact that you have.
Yeah.
So the plan was always to kind of stay in one area. And it's a big region, but to stay there and make a massive change, kind of top to bottom, right across the communities, rather than kind of pick a service area and then work all across.
That's really interesting, because that's quite different from the way most charities work. Is that how else do you think Afrikids is different from lots of charities out there?
I think we're different in lots of ways. I think times are changing. I think when we set this up, we were very different in many, many ways, and I think the sector's moved since then. But we only employ local people. So we've got 120 staff out there. They are all local. People who run the projects, like child mining projects, often were child miners themselves. So people who really get it, they really understand. And I never wanted to be this charity over in the UK that was, saying do this, do that, kind of giving orders and direction from here. All of the solutions that have been world class in how they've been delivered and the impact they've had are set up by, or come up with by, guys in the village who are teachers and local traders. So it was really kind of getting the answers to the problems from the people for whom the problems were theirs, and them just finding a way to support them to address that. So that's kind of one of the things. I think the other thing is that we really focus on sustainability. Like, we don't go into anything unless we know what the long-term impact of that's going to be and that it can run without us. It's not just about kind of financial, but it's about, can that community continue to support itself? Do they have the training? Do they have the resources? Do they have the support when we've stepped out? And that's really critical.
I think that's what's really attractive to me about Afrikids. It's not like, you go and deliver things that might not have any impact or might not really be useful. Often I think charities might, I don't know if this is true or not, but they might deliver things that aren't really very well thought out, and actually the locals are like, well, what do we do with this? And, as you say, have quite a short-term impact.
And I saw that a lot when I started, and I was working at this children's home. And this was a woman who had no electricity, no water, 30, 35 babies at a time in desperate conditions.
So
And
one woman looking after this.
and she was a nun,
Wow.
and she was doing incredible work. And she would get on, like I remember in the middle of the night, somebody from the community would come in and say, a baby's been born, they've been branded a spirit child, you need to go and help them. She's not a small lady. She would get on her moped in the pouring rain, and she would just go out into that village, and she would help deliver the baby, or she would help support them afterwards. She would negotiate with the community so that the baby wasn't killed, and she would take them in and look after them. And I remember, you know, you're working in this environment which is so tough, and I came from a very privileged background, so to experience that really, really shook me.
Yeah.
But then one day we're sitting there in the courtyard and we're chatting, and up rocks a truck with a satellite on it, and these guys get out and they give a toilet and they give a cooker, and she's like, thank you, and the kids line up in their church clothes and they have photos, and off the guy goes. And I'm like, what are you going to do with all that stuff? She's like, well, we can't use the toilet because we've got no water. We can't use the cooker because we've got no electricity. So they gut the cooker and they use it as a box. And the toilet becomes a cot.
No.
And she's like, well, and they gave a generator, which they didn't even know how to use. And some donors sitting in the UK thinking, yeah, you know, I gave this.
This is great, yeah.
And this woman is there with probably £10,000-15,000 worth of equipment, which if she'd given that cash, she could have changed everything. So it's just about being really considered and thoughtful, and letting them decide how the money's used, not imposing stuff for donor satisfaction. So that was the kind of...
So you kind of touched on this spirit child thing, and I think you've done actual projects tackling this. Could you just tell me a little bit about the success of those?
Yeah, so the spirit child phenomenon is when a child is born who the mother dies in childbirth, or the child is born with a disability, which often is from birth complications or poor nutrition, or it can be a number of different things, but that child is then branded as a spirit child and thought to be sent by the devil to the community to cause harm.
My heart is breaking.
And it is shocking, and I did my dissertation on it, and when I was out there at the beginning, one child was dying every day, and it was 15% of child deaths were children being killed. They die? So some of them would just abandon them, some of them would give them a concoction that was a poison. And it seems so barbaric to you and I and to me at the beginning. But if you think about it, when you're a father and you've got 7 kids and the wife dies in childbirth, delivering the 8th, and you've got nothing, can you afford baby milk? No. If you pay for baby milk, you can't feed the rest of your family. So we here have the privilege of being able to say that's an awful thing to do.
It's barbaric,
But actually, we also don't have to make those decisions, which, you know, how do they look after a disabled child? So we set out to really try and address that, and this was a guy called Joe, who was a teacher in the community, helped out at the children's home I was working in, and he came up with some ideas to really address that at the root, not just be bringing these children in, but actually to think about how do we stop that happening. And he did it by bringing people together and getting ideas from the community and understanding why it's done, and speaking to the concoction men, who are the guys who that we now work with them and change their trade and give them an alternative source of income, and talk to them about the kind of the history of it, and understand that this is something that's come from years. It's not just you should go to jail because you've given poison. It's like, where's this come from? How can we give you an
understanding it a bit more?
And we've set up maternal health units. We've got cerebral palsy centres now for children who have the disabilities. And in those first 20 communities that we've worked in, on this programme that Joe and the local people have designed, we have wiped out the phenomenon.
Wow.
He's won the International Service Award for the Defence of Children's Rights. And we're now in another 40 communities. And we're a year into that, and it's just hugely successful. And we're invited in now, because instead of bringing in the police and it getting pushed underground, we've really engaged with it. And the solutions are extraordinary, like the things that our staff come up with out there to address these problems. You know, FGM was a problem for many years, and it would get pushed underground because of the way it was dealt with. But they're so sensitive to it. They work with the communities, not against them, and it works. It's amazing.
That sounds like well, it just sounds like a better way of doing things rather than coming in very heavy-handed and being quite authoritarian. That's
And I think that's the difference between people who are part of that community and want to make that change, and that change impacts them and their families and the communities, and people who are external, who are trying to, with very good will, find solutions to these problems. But you just can't, I mean, we couldn't do that in the next region, let alone in another continent, in another country.
No.
Right, you have to have that local impact.
Absolutely, yeah. So, okay, tell me, I've heard about a young guy called Samuel that Afrikids have supported.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about him?
Well, he's one of the pleasures of having been on such a journey with Afrikids, being with them for so long, is that children who were babies when I first went out there are now kind of grown men, do it with jobs. And Samuel was a street child. His mother was from Tongo, and he and his sisters and his mother begged on the streets of Bolgatanga, which is where Afrikids is based. And they really struggled, and they were found by this phenomenal lady called Mamaladi, who, as a public health nurse, took in children off the streets who were thought of as spirits or who couldn't look after themselves, and she would hide them in her room and she would look after them. And I came across her. One of the street kids introduced me to her, and she had 10 kids living with her. And we set out to build her a home and to get a proper foster care system in place. And Samuel was one of those children, and he was just the hardest worker, just unbelievable, always working, always reading, always trying to better himself.
Do you remember how old he was? No.
So at the time when I met him, probably about 6 or 7, I had a little sister called Clara with him, who's still with Mamaladi. And he did so well at school. He went on to medical school.
Oh, wow.
And he qualified a couple of years ago as a physician's assistant, which is somewhere between a nurse and a doctor. So they have prescribing rights, but they're not quite doctor. He's probably got another 2 or 3 years to go to be a doctor. But this is a kid who, you know, people will have dismissed at the lorry park, and now he's come up through this. And I remember him saying, you know, I was never going to look back and think I could have worked for 1 more minute to be better. You know, I've got to do everything I can, and just the commitment to making their lives better. Anyway, so he's fantastic because he now helps Ladi and her children, and he's working in our hospital.
Oh, brilliant! That's good. So that must be so lovely to see that long-term impact that Afrikids are having. It's a really good example. I think. So Samuel's one of the people who you've helped. One of the things I'm keen to find out about is about safeguarding and how you can ensure that the people who you help are, you know, looked after well.
So we work with Keeping Children Safe, who are kind of the largest body that manage this, and it is central to everything we do, and it always has been. All of our staff are trained every year on how to identify children at risk. We've worked with the NSPCC on that, and it's written into every policy. How we recruit people is dependent on how good they are with children, how they're able to read children, how they're able to look after them, if they can identify children at risk. So we take it really, really seriously. And the problem with children at risk is often they're difficult to see. So being able to identify them in the communities is a real skill, and making sure that they feel there's a safe place to come to. And you see that when I'm out there, and the Afrikids guys have got their wonderful Afrikids clothes on, their Friday wear as they call it, and you can see people spot them in the community and they go up to them because they know that is a safe person to talk to. So they've really built the credibility.
That's good, and the trustworthy.
Exactly.
That's lovely. So I've noticed that on your website, and anytime you use any of your images on social media or anything, you show happy, smiley people, and that's quite different from a lot of charities. And I want to know what the thinking behind that is. Is that an actual policy? Tell me a bit more about that.
Well, it's an absolute core value for us. We will never show a picture of a desperate child. And it's for a number of reasons. Firstly, it's the dignity of the child, the dignity of the communities.
Okay.
You are representing these people.
Yeah.
I don't want to be shown at my worst, you
No.
know, and nobody does. And secondly, what we do is about creating opportunities, and Ghana is the most beautiful country with incredible opportunity for investment, for tourism, for growth, and it is, you know, every day new things are happening. It's extraordinary. And if we keep showing desperate images of children holding out rice bowls and people associate that with Africa,
Yeah.
they're not going to invest. And so we have a responsibility to get across images that are honest but really reflect the true culture that's there. And I get quite cross about it because I think that when you show a desperate image of a child, people give because they feel guilty.
Yeah.
And
That's so true.
and we are not here to help people with their guilt, right? If you're giving to a charity, you need to give because you're informed.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't give to those charities that have images of sad
Yeah.
children on tubes, but go and look that charity up
Yeah.
and find out about
Find
them.
out,
And give
yeah.
because they're good at what they do. Don't give because you
They're
feel
pulling
sad.
on your heartstrings.
Exactly.
And I mean the flip side of that is that could that lead to less donations? And that's obviously something that you've weighed up, but
Well, it's how do you want people to engage? Do you want people to engage and give a quick buck and
Yeah.
feel bad
Yeah.
and have that image? Or do you want people to come on this kind of exciting journey with you where you talk about the opportunity for that child?
yeah.
Or you could show a picture of a child, like there's a happy child there called Gifty. You could show a picture of that child and say, this is what she's been through.
Yeah.
So don't hold back on the horrors,
Yeah.
but actually be very clear about how you can turn them around. And that's really important to us.
I really like that. I really, really like that. I think, yeah, that's amazing. I love that policy that you have.
And we all love Africa and we love the people we're with. And we all know the people we work with so well that they're kind of our friends, like they are our communities. It's not you, and you wouldn't do that with people that you care about.
No, you wouldn't. So apparently it's an important time to grow your community of supporters.
Yes.
And you're running this big appeal, which I'm supporting, called
Yeah.
Time to Shine.
Thank you for that.
Can you tell me what you and others have been doing to raise money, and about the UK government who are backing it?
Yes, well that's phenomenal. So the Department for International Development.
That's
are
a big
backing
thing,
it.
isn't it?
It's a huge thing for us because so they are doubling every donation that comes in for that until March the 4th. And
So we've got to have a big push.
big push. So Time to Shine is about getting children happy, healthy and in school. Because if you educate a child, they get a good education, then you reduce this dependency on Western aid.
Yeah.
Right? They don't need it. And I can see already the change. You know, Samuel's coming out, he's a doctor, or he will be a doctor. We've got teachers, we've got nurses, we've got people creating new businesses. It's like that is how you get them educated.
Yeah.
And Nick, the director of Afrikids Ghana, has always been, it's about education. So it's a big campaign, it's incredible, the matching scheme. And we're all getting involved in any way we can. And you can donate straight on the website. My kids have got really involved and they've designed these shoelaces,
Amazing.
these bootlaces, because they're so into sport. They've done it with their friends, and they are selling them for £2.50 to anyone who'll buy, and using that. And I think they cost 30p to make, so they are raising thousands of pounds, which again will be matched. So it's very exciting for everyone, and we just hope lots of people will get involved.
Yeah. So if anyone is looking at this, watching this, what's the best thing that they can do to get involved? Where would they go?
So I would say go to the website. You can donate directly there. If you want to buy any laces, you can go to info@afrikids.org, just send us an email there. You can, anyone kind of just exactly like you're doing, people who have lots of followers, people who have lots of influence, getting them to wear these and take a picture or to talk about it, to anyone who'll listen, really. But yeah, I think the best thing is to look at the website and also see if that's what you want to get involved in. You know, you can be as involved as you want, but this is the thing, you know, don't give because you feel a guilt towards it. Really get involved because there's so much to Afrikids, and I think there's something for everyone in there.
And really, it sounds like you want people to really invest into Afrikids, not just like one-off donations. It would be really nice for them to sort of a long-term investment, really.
Totally. And we really pride ourselves on that. We don't have vast numbers of supporters. In fact, lots of people watching this probably even haven't heard of us. But we pride ourselves really on the quality of what we do, and then the relationships we build with our supporters, and really getting to know them, the feedback that we give, bridging the gap between the donor and the recipient so that it's a partnership in trying to address the problems out there. And just get people to get to know us. I mean, since I've left, since I've moved on and am now a trustee, Afrikids won the International Charity of the Year award.
Did they?
Really are.
That's good.
So at least you know that
not
there's
because
quality.
You left, hopefully.
Not because I left.
And so what is your role now with Afrikids? So you were the founder, and you've kind of allowed it to continue to grow, and you've slightly moved away from it. What is your role?
So I started it in kind of 1998, really was when it all started. I stepped down in 2014.
Okay. Was that hard for you?
It was really hard, but the lady who took over as CEO was absolutely incredible, and I felt very informed and very involved, and I still go out all the time. And
I can imagine it's a bit like handing over your baby, though.
It is. Afrikids literally was my third child, but it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm a leadership coach now, and you need a different leader for different times of any business's journey. And I think it's thrived without me.
Yeah, I think that's quite admirable for you to do. To know that it's time to step back, and this can really still continue to grow with somebody else at the helm.
Yeah. It was difficult, but no, it is, and now it's being run by Charlie, and she's fantastic. And I think you need people who are really there to take it to the next level, and it's difficult to see when you're in it. And I step back and I look in now, and I'm like, yeah, I should have done that a little bit sooner.
You've really inspired me to visit Ghana. You must.
I
would love to.
Must come.
I would absolutely love to. What continues to inspire you about it? Tell us a little bit more
about Ghana.
Yeah.
They always say that you go to South Africa for the scenery and East Africa for the animals, and you go to West Africa for the people.
Oh, really?
Honestly, it is. West Africa is all about the people. They are just, I travelled around there. I've travelled around there a lot with no hotels, just rocking up at places.
Oh, really?
And asking if I can stay somewhere. I have never been turned away. And people are so warm, and in fact the difficulty I have when we're travelling around and working with the communities we do, it's actually how do you leave the home, because you're so into chatting and they're bringing you food and they're telling you their kids, and so actually it's just the most warm and incredible place, and it has so much opportunity, but they unfortunately have so many challenges to get through, but it's addictive because they have amazing ways of addressing them, and when they've got the funding, real change happens.
Yeah.
And so
when are you going next?
A couple of months.
Ooh.
Going back with my family and a few other families, to do a challenge out there.
Oh, tell us about that.
So it's called the Zare Challenge. Zare means welcome in Frafra, and we've done it once before, where we take a group of families out there. And every day the children wake up in the morning and they're given an envelope with a challenge in. And one day it may be about learning how to farm, and one day it may be going to Mama Ladi's house and learning how to dance and drum. And the children help, the Mama Ladi's children get involved and they help teach, and we bring in
God, this sounds amazing.
And one day we went to a village called Sirigu and we learned how to make the pottery that they do. We learned how to make shea butter on another day. And it's about the kids from Ghana and the kids in the UK getting involved, stuck in together, and just really experiencing community life. Yeah. And the kids over here, having done fundraising, going and actually seeing where it is, and getting kids involved in how you support at an early age. and not thinking about it as aid and lemon nuts,
Yeah.
but actually we're in
Getting
this
them together and friendships.
so many friendships.
Oh, that
And,
sounds wonderful.
And so we take a lot of people out there. We've done lots of corporate challenges where we've taken staff out there, and it's just a really good way of taking people outside their comfort zone. But for my kids, they don't see the poverty. They just see kind of, what do you remember from today? Oh, that guy was really good at football and he had no boots on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that it was really hot that day and that was quite spicy and they were really friendly. They don't notice the poverty.
What about the food? How do the kids like the food?
Chicken and rice, we're all good.
Yeah, that's
they
it.
love it.
Okay,
And
that's
actually
good.
a lot of people kind of get a little bit worried about the food.
Yeah.
But no, the food's good.
Is
The
it?
food is really good, actually.
Aw.
Yeah, you must come and try
I
it.
know, yeah, I'd like to. Thank you
A
for
pleasure.
talking to me.
Thank
That's
you very
been
much.
really, really interesting, and hopefully you guys have learnt a lot too about Afrikids. Have we covered everything? Is there anything you can think of that we needed to get in there?
I know I'm going to walk out the door and I'm going, damn it. No, I think we've probably covered everything. I think if
Yeah.
people just want to get involved, just have a look at the website, get in touch, because we love building strong relationships with donors. And
Yeah,
these children really, need our support.
just shout about it.
Yeah, tell everyone.
Yeah.
Buy some lasers.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you
and
very
yeah,
much.